to kind of build a rapport, and then there we go.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so then that went really well, and it totally worked out, and we went in the room the next day, and just really something clicked, and it just felt right, and then even after that, they had, he couldn't just go with the first two people he saw, so I had to read with other Rachels, she read with other Gregs, then finally, after like months, we were put together and we were cast. But yeah, it was a long process, but it was totally worth it.
Is inherent with that, and how did you sort of deal with that?
Originally, the book and the screenplay had a lot of, Herzog was there, and then I think Clockwork Orange, and then they started getting a bit popular, and I just, Jesse and I were talking, I said, well, we have Nick Offerman who's introducing these kids to Herzog, let's just keep going down that track and all these Criterion collection and introduce maybe a younger generation to a lot of these films. And that in itself is kind of an extension of the theme. You keep Michael Powell alive by keep watching his movies. And then it became quite a torture for me to come up with a list. Like, who do you put on the list, who do you leave off the list? It's impossible. So I work on this list, and then we had posters, boards in my office, and it'd be, how do we pay homage to Buñuel, Kurosawa? I mean, how do we do this? And so these are going to be the parodies, and then these are the props. So it'd be the Scorsese book, and it'd be, the Archer's logo was going to be their Gaines Jackson logo. Thelma Schoonmaker was going to be Greg Gaines's screensaver on his desktop, and little things like that. And then what are going to be burn-ins? So the movies that they're going to be watching, or you can see in the background. So Brackage was there, and Charles and Ray Eames that would eventually find their way into that final film. And Tales of Hoffman with the Scorsese documentary, a commentary, and...
Yeah, so the day prior to that, we had done the, where I just lost all my hair, and we'd done that in so many different setups, and me and Thomas were both knackered. So Alfonso came up to us and said, why is that funny?
It means tired.
It means tired. Sorry, language barrier. And then, we'd done that a bunch of different ways, and Alfonso came up to us at the end of that scene saying, do you want to go on to do the I'm stopping chemo scene? And I had nothing else in me, I had nothing left to give. And so we blocked the scene, we didn't rehearse it again or go through it because we knew the lines ever since, December. We shot it in June. So we knew where the camera was going to be for the first setup, and we came in the morning and we did it in 4 takes, and Alfonso called cut and said, yeah, done. I'm like, oh, that's it?
I could barely speak, though.
There.
And that didn't exist in the book. That was something that Jesse put in the script, and I think was quite smart to do so, because you didn't want, it's something that Olivia and I talked about a lot, you don't want her to be a victim. You don't want to see her as a victim, and it's a very natural thing to do, to be in denial and to lie to yourself, especially if you're a filmmaker who's telling you a story. That's his way in, and maybe in the retelling of it, things might change even then. But it's a very honest thing for someone his age to do in telling us this story, because you do lie to yourself, and you do hope that everything's going to be different and turn out different, even when it's clear.
Like, I really appreciate the performance, and director, you've done such an amazing job. The question that I had was really for Thomas, though. From the conceptualization of a normal comedy, kind of like having dramatic moments in it sometimes, how did you prepare yourself for this role? Because the whole undertaking of the script in and of itself, I couldn't imagine like having a character that's so different, but at the same time so honest and noble, but he doesn't see that in himself. How did you prepare yourself personally for that? Or did you pull that out of your own personality? I was just curious.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where you read a character and you have a reaction to it, and you see parts of yourself in it, even the less admirable parts of yourself. And I like that he was this sort of like really intelligent, very self-aware teenager, but he's a guy who has all the answers, he has everything mapped out, but is too stubborn and selfish to really make use of them. And I just know, like, it reminded me of, like, not only myself, but like my sister, who's slightly closer to Greg's age, and just modern teenagers who have kind of created a bubble for themselves and are very comfortable not making real connections, and it was something I wanted to kind of take on, and so I don't know, it's a weird thing to kind of explain my process because it was something I was figuring out as I was going. I had never been part of a film that had required me to be so emotionally available, and I wasn't even sure, even after I was cast, that I was going to be able to deliver on the day, you know, and that was really daunting for me, but it was the kind of thing where the further we went along, I felt so close to everyone involved, and you know, me and Olivia had become really good friends, me and RJ had become really good friends, and me and Alfonso had become really good friends, and it was something like we all trusted each other, and when you feel like you can't fail, then you just allow yourself to open up, I just, you know, I just empathize. I've reached this new point of empathy in my life that I never really understood before, and it was not about recalling some sort of past trauma in my own life, you know, to try and make myself cry in a scene or something. It was really just about knowing and loving these characters and just kind of trusting that, and that for me was enough. And yeah, it was a really profound experience for me creatively, and I feel like I grew up a lot, but it's not something I can really pick apart. I don't know.
It shows. You did a great job.
Thank you.
There was a real lived-in quality about everybody, even you guys, I mean, that are younger than your other castmates. I mean, the naturalism and the truth, the honesty of everybody's performances was really spectacular. Really. Yes.
Everything works really nice in the film.
Naturalism and the truth, the honesty of everybody's performances was really spectacular. Really. Yes.
Everything works really nice in the film, especially like production design.
Yeah.
So
Jerry Sullivan.
Reminded me of a mashup of John Hughes and Wes Anderson. If you could talk about how you came up with that concept.
We did assign one color was the kind of the connective thread throughout the whole movie, which was yellow, which was the color symbolized Olivia, Rachel, which was it's a cycle, a rebirth, sun, and that informed every other decision, from the rubber bands on Greg's wrist when he's typing at the beginning, at the end. There's a little bit of Rachel everywhere, in the green of her bedroom, in the color of Earl's house as a kid, or even in the adult way. It's like this bright yellow, it's a memory, and she's just everywhere, and that informed everything. And then in choosing the locations, I just wanted to make sure every house had a silhouette and a personality, and one house that was kind of perfect, and it was certainly closer to the version in the script, and it was cave-like, and you went downstairs to her bedroom, but I could have shot that in Burbank, you know, and then when we found this house on Murray Hill Avenue, again, had its own, her house, her red house, her little townhouses, had a beautiful silhouette, and you could divide the spaces into the mom's world and then her world, and that then creates its own story. You don't even have to go there. But you see her pottery barn, stark white, no family photographs, and her nest up there. And then Jesse's house became Greg's house. I loved Jesse's house, but we'd scout, his parents would make us dinner. And then I kept chasing houses just like his, and I liked the wallpaper, I liked the doorways, I liked the two staircases, and then we eventually asked them if they could use it. We shot it for free.
Everyone else was so real and raw in the movie, and you know, it would have been if I had had cancer or had anyone close to me who had cancer, and watching the movie and seeing just a big bulky bald cap, it would just completely just take me out of the movie, and I wouldn't feel for this character. Yeah, so no.
This film opens in DC on June 12th
Or 19th.
June 12th. These guys just came from Philly. They're here shortly, and then they're going back to New York. They're on a whirlwind. It's been quite a year for this. I know the film got an award here at Film Fest in April. It's got some accolades from the Sundance and some other places. It's really, it's snowballing, and it's kind of the talked about, buzzed about thing right now, which is amazing. The point of these screenings, while wonderful to meet these folks, is for you to get on email and social media and tell everybody you saw this. Tell them they must see it when it comes out. Thank these guys for coming and talking with us.
Thank you.
Like, you played off of the screenplay really you well. But at the same time, I'm treating this book now because I want to kind of compare in between. I was wondering two things. One, if you could sign my little sheet for me, and I was gonna get a picture with you. Okay. Do you have a pen? Yeah, let me see if I can get one. Looking at this, it really made me want to go shoot something.
Yeah, it makes you want to go create.
Do you mind if y'all say
Of course. What's your
my
name?
ticket? Sam.
Sam.